Hi! Hello everybody! Okay, sorry if it's gonna be all echoey. I'm in my living room. It has the best lighting right now, but there's no furniture in here really, so that explains the echo. But I wanted to make another video and... oh! Happy Halloween too, I almost forgot. Wait, hold on. I want to show you my pumpkin. Okay. I don't know if you can see this, but this is my snake pumpkin. The top says Gone 999, and then the side says Illusion, and then if you turn it, it says Welcome to the Void. So that's the most Halloween event that I will be, that's not even a language. This is the most Halloween type of thing I'll be doing today, which that wasn't even today. Okay, let's get back into the groove of this. So, a few nights ago, I mentioned this in another video, but I feel like sharing it for some odd reason. A few nights ago, I went to a little party kind of thing with not with my brother, but I met up with my brother there because he insisted on me going. And so I decided to go, and I show up and they're like, oh, we're gonna have some mushroom tea. And I want to caption this, you'll understand later, but it's mushroom tea, it's all me. That'll make more sense when I explain the trip later. But, okay, so I was already kind of feeling uncomfortable from the start. I didn't know a lot of people, and the people I did know, I didn't know very well. And my brother knows that I don't like parties anyway, but I was a little hesitant, but I was like, okay, I'll try to go out of my comfort zone. So I did, and I showed up, and we ended up taking we were drinking the tea, and we finished it, and then throughout that time period, I felt really loose, and like I didn't feel anything, so I was like, okay, this is fine. I was having a conversation with one of his friends, and we were just talking about ayahuasca, because that got brought up, and he said he had an experience with it, so we were talking, it felt like for probably like an hour on ayahuasca and other medicines and just other random things. But then towards the end, we both couldn't really recollect what we were saying anymore, and so like I was like, I think I'm feeling this, and all the other people who had some were like, yeah, we're kind of feeling it, it's light, but we can feel it. But then my brother had the idea of going outside to, my landlord can probably hear me, but going outside, hold on, I want to make sure this is focused. Okay. Sorry, going outside to smoke a joint. So we did that, and we wanted it to be high-end, our trip, because it was so light, but you know, I went in smoking knowing it probably wasn't the best idea because we hadn't waited that long. But yeah, so we smoked a joint, and then we were with another friend, his other friend, and by the time we were making it back upstairs, I was starting to really feel it. The hallways got really small, which they already were from the beginning, but they were very narrow, and everything started to feel like it was like, I don't know how to explain it, like a roller coaster in a way. And I was just really like bubbly and light and like definitely high. So yeah, we get back into the party, and from here on out, it starts to get a little weird for me. I was trying to have conversations, but I was having a lot of recalls of dreams, and reality was kind of falling away for me, as it usually does when I take these, which I don't know how everyone else was managing and coping to just have normal, boring conversations about nothing. I wanted to have something spiritual, which it was coming and I could feel it. But one of his friends kept saying things that would kind of make me freak out in a way, because they had already occurred before he said them. Like, before I went to the party, I pulled some tarot and oracle cards to just kind of get a feel for how it might go. And so here are I'll just kind of show you. Wait a sec, sorry. So we have the Page of Swords. I don't really want to explain this one, but I'll explain the other ones. I pulled this card, the Heart Taurus, which that is all about, so intelligence of the heart, being aware of your surroundings. So that kind of makes sense. And then I pulled Swallow the Sun, and that means this card's about dreams and visions and using those messages and clues to watch your present reality. So there you go. And then next I pulled Stone People, which is vigilance. So if you know what vigilance means, that will make a lot of sense to you. But it's pretty much being aware of the good things that could happen and the bad things that could happen. So just an awareness. And the last one was Meadow, vulnerability. So this card specifically, his friend kept saying, just be your true self. And that's exactly what I wrote down, was be my true self, authenticity. And he kept saying things that I was telling myself before I went to this party. So then there was a point where I felt something in my pocket, and I was like, well, I brought something, I remember that. And I pulled my Fibonacci crystal out, which I always forget the name of this one, but I love this thing. In my previous video I explained this, but I'll do it again. I pulled this out and I was looking down at it, and something in my brain triggered, and it was the dream from the night before, which I had already told my brother. And the dream was that I was looking down at a spiraling building with a spiral, like a staircase kind of thing. I was looking down at it, but then I realized I was at the top, so then I started looking up at it. And as I was holding this in my hand at the party, I fell into that dream again, and it was the exact same image as this was. And then last night, I don't know why it didn't make sense to me at the party, but last night I realized the dream that I had that was foreshadowing my mushroom trip. A part of it was when I went with a few people to this spiraling building, and those few people happened to be two of the people that were at the party. And that was the friend that kept bringing up being my true self, and another guy that I slightly knew. So that triggered something, and then I also, by the end of that spiraling staircase dream, I ended it with me standing in front of a giant red mushroom. And in the moment of waking up from that dream, I was like, oh, that's strange. And I told my brother, but then after everything has happened, it's quite apparent that my entire life and my dreams, my visions, everything is a foreshadowing, and everything is happening all at once. There is really no linear timeline to when things happen or occur. Reality is not what we think it is. yeah, I could go on forever about that, but I'm gonna go talk more about the trip. So yes, pulling this out of my pocket triggered something in my brain, and from there on out, I felt like I was falling, and I couldn't have conversations with anyone, and I had to leave, and no one. I asked my brother if he would leave with me, but he didn't, so I left on my own. I went outside into my car, and I got my art supplies and started drawing because I didn't know what else to do at this point. So I guess I'll show you what I drew. I drew this. It says, "It's all me, it's always me. Why can't they see? Why can't I see it? Why? I started to realize every thought that I had would manifest in that moment. So I had this huge feeling of being betrayed and abandoned and left alone, and I had a lot of anger inside of me. This is kind of personal, but who cares, I guess, towards my brother, because he called me and said, "I won't leave you." And this kind of goes on to the next part, but he pretty much, yeah, like I was alone having a bad trip, and I called him later, and he said, "Just wait until you're not high anymore." And yeah, I don't want to get into the emotions of it, but back to this picture, "It's all me." I started to realize with the dialogue I was having with my brother and I, it was all self-created. And even on the physical, I was sitting in my car bubble, like it was a literal bubble. I heard the outside world going on, the city, the loud noises. I was on parked right off of the most popping like street ever, and I watched as people walked past in their costumes, and I felt like a child having this strange dream, but my thoughts were so fiery, and at one point I actually thought I created a car accident because I was exploding with just anger and sadness, and a bus, like I know it happened, a bus hit a car, and I was like freaking out, and I was like, "You need to stop these thoughts, because this reality you are creating is becoming overbearing for others," I guess. But and then I drew another picture, and it was of my Fibonacci spiral, and it's a terrible picture, but it says, "Vulnerable, it's too much," and then it says, "Naked me," and it has like a flower of life or seed of life kind of thing. But eventually I got really cold and I had to pee, and I would turn on the car and I would put the seat warmer on, and there was a point where I couldn't tell what was happening anymore. I couldn't tell if I was peeing myself or if my legs were just really hot from the seat warmer. I couldn't tell, I don't know how to explain it. Everything was melting pretty much. I was becoming it. I was becoming the world around me, and the world around me was just a projection of what was going inside. So later on, I couldn't help but leave the car because I had to go to the bathroom so badly. I walked up and down these streets, and I was hoping that I wasn't going to get lost. So I tried to keep track, but I got so distracted by the conversations and all of the energies and emotions coming from other people. And there was a point where I could see the predicament of every single individual I walked past. And there was another time where I was thinking to myself, I need to get home, I need to be in a safe place, but I can't drive. Within seconds later, there's a drunk girl screaming, "I can't drive!" It sounds crazy. It really does. But I was creating the world around me, and that's a constant basis. I just tapped in on a level where I was aware of this. We are constantly doing that, but we are not necessarily, we don't have the perception or the goggles or glasses to always see it because we are dealing with other emotions and things like that. But I tapped into that, and at that point I was just pure observation. My body, I don't know how it was walking. It was like a robotic mechanism. It was just doing it, and I eventually found a bathroom in a coffee shop, and I ended up looking in the mirror when I was in the bathroom, and I didn't know who I was anymore. And not only did I not know, but I looked in the mirror and I saw a child, and I was afraid to walk out of the bathroom because there were all of these big kids and adults around me, and I didn't want them to think that I was lost or that I wasn't supposed to be there. But anyways, I get back to the car, then I really start contemplating what I'm doing, and I kind of freak out, and this is where I call my brother, and I'm like, hey, where are you? And he's like, oh, I'm out with my friends. And I was like, well, I'm not doing okay. I might need you. And he was like, well, we can't really meet up. It's too complicated. Why don't you just wait till you're not high anymore? And that's where I knew I just lost a lot of trust. But I knew it was me doing this to myself. So I was ashamed of what I had created, to say the least. But then I hung up pretty disappointed and everything. And I really shouldn't share this on YouTube, but I mean, this is a part of the story, so. I knew I had to get home. I knew I wouldn't know how to use the bus system. I couldn't take a taxi. I was just too afraid. So I sat there and I prayed and I cried with all my heart. And I asked for me to be protected and for something or someone to help me. And all of a sudden, all of this stuff, like, it was gone, and I was just back. I mean, I wasn't there. That's the thing. I wasn't there, but my physical body was back to operating the normal systems of not being intoxicated or anything like that. But there was something inside of me who, this person wanted to make me safe. So I started my car and I drove across the city. And my ego kept saying, this is not okay. You cannot do this. But something higher than myself said, you're not in charge right now. We have someone else taking over. This sounds so mystical and weird. It was like 15 to 20 minutes across the city driving on Saturday night, like Halloween weekend. And I don't have an iPod because my car got broken into, so I didn't have like any relaxing music to, help me through this. So I only had like a Jimi Hendrix CD. And while I was driving, I realized Jimi Hendrix was, how do I say this? Jimi Hendrix was singing the song to my death. My favorite song, Hey Joe, I think that's the name. I just realized how depressing and how sad his music is. And I wanted to go home and I wanted to kill myself, and he was singing me to my deathbed, I felt like. This is not easy. This is really not easy, saying this or even sharing this to the world, because no one knows except my best friend that I told today. But yeah, so I got home and then everything came back and I was like, oh, I'm high off of mushrooms again. And so I get inside of my house and I kind of lose it. I forgot that it was like 1 in the morning, maybe later too. But I was really loud, and then I didn't want to wake up my upstairs landlord because I didn't want them to find out what I was going to do. But yeah, so I got into my room and I was tripping really hard and I was just crying. And I've been feeling really, before I even took this, I was feeling extremely depressed the past few weeks specifically, but even months. But I sat there and I was devastated by the fact that my brother was so aware of my state of being and how depressed I was, and he just let me, I think they're coming down. He just let me, he let me go, yeah, and he didn't care. So I was hurt, but, okay, I'm sorry, I'm like getting quiet. I think they're coming down and it's really awkward because I'm like right by the door. Okay, so anyways, I was falling into this pit of despair and I knew that no one cared really at a deeper level. Yeah, no one really cared, and it was all me, and I'm the only thing that ever existed and will exist. And that's where I've been depressed lately, because like I know I'm all that is, and if that's true, that means I've created everything around me and I'm creating it so that I don't feel alone. And once I realize that I am alone, what is there, you know? Okay, so I guess I'll go into, okay, so I started getting this feeling that someone, whoever drove me home, was still with me, and they kept talking me out of my decisions, and I was feeling really unhappy about that. I thought it was really unfair because their tactic was, it was for the other people, like, you shouldn't kill yourself because your brother will feel so devastated that he wasn't there for you, or your family and all this stuff. And I was like, that's not fair. Like, if I'm in pain, I want to go. It's not always about them. And I can see, yes, I know as I'm saying this, I can see the goodness and the illusion and all of that, and the contradiction, of course. But, you know, in that moment, it didn't matter. So I got this feeling like, okay, I need to text my best friend, my sister, and if she replies, that means there's someone there for me. Like, you know, I wanted to have some glimmer of hope. So I texted her saying something like, I feel really blue. Why am I always blue? And she wrote me back. And even though like she wrote me back feeling really depressed too, it gave me, I don't know, it did something for me. But we wrote a few times, and as I was drawing, I finished drawing a picture, and then she wrote me saying, it never ends. And before she said that, I drew this. And in it says, it never ends. And then there's that. So I knew that we were extremely connected. Okay, sorry, my landlord was actually calling me, of course. Okay, so yeah, my best friend and I, my best friend and I were extremely connected, obviously. But that gave me hope, so I started to listen to this other thing inside of me, and I took its advice. And some part of me knew that even though I wasn't going to die physically, I was dying inside, and staying alive was just as suicidal as living. But I knew that I needed to sleep, and I felt that I was going to be taken that night for something. I don't know why, but I knew that I was going to go somewhere, and that my entities or my people were going to fix something or do something to me. But let's see here. Oh yeah, and right before I fell asleep, I wrote 2 words: I am. And I wrote that because it could go both ways what am I trying to say? It can be very heavy, but it can also be very light. I am all that is, with both darkness and light. There's a sense of hopefulness in that, and there was also a sense of kind of giving up. Well, what else am I going to do if I'm all that is? Physically dying is not really the answer, because I'll just be in the same state as I am now, so why not continue living physically? Yeah, because I didn't see the difference anymore. So I'm sorry this is like really personal and dark. I didn't really want to make a video like this, but yeah, that was my mushroom trip. So I guess I can go over the biggest things again with taking this. I felt extremely connected to all things. Oneness. Once again, I feel that a lot with medicine. I could see the predicament of others. I was creating a reality that was manifesting simultaneously. I kind of went above myself a lot of the time with a higher perspective, and I was with my higher self, and I was able to allow other beings to guide me when I knew that I was incapable. Another thing, let's see. Yeah, I felt really loose, like everything was melting in my body. Couldn't tell the difference between standing or sitting or peeing or having warm legs. This doesn't really have to do with the trip, but my dreams preluded and foreshadowed to this very event, and this allowed me to realize that that's everything. That is existence in itself. It's always foreshadowing, because it's on the same timeline as the past and the future. It's always the now. Every single moment is now. So it's not fortune telling or anything like that. It's just being in tune with every single moment. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but yeah, so that was my mushroom tea. It's all me, baby. Yeah, okay. I don't know if there's anything else. I think I'm gonna make another video on another trip, I guess. And yeah, thank you for listening. I don't even know if anyone's gonna watch this, and I hope no one that I know watches this, because this is highly personal, and I don't even know why I felt inclined to share this story. And oh, I just wanted to let you know that the situation between my brother and I seems really terrible, but I stepped into a realization that all he's doing is playing the role that I needed in order to learn and grow from a new perspective. I needed to have and develop self-awareness and accountability for all that I do, all that I am, and all that I create. So I don't know if that makes sense to you, but having this situation literally just forces me to love externally and internally that much more. So if you're ever faced with an external, what seems to be betrayal or anything like that, just know it's your higher self giving you this as fierce grace, as Ram Dass says. It's fierce grace for you to grow and blossom beyond your wildest imagination. I know these kind of things, it's really hard to see the love and the beauty in it, but everything is divine and we must accept that and just move forward. Again, thank you for listening. I really appreciate it, and if you want to hear anything else, like leave a comment, let me know. I don't know. Okay, thank you, bye.